The Chief Executive of the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants, Dr. Terence Nombembe, believes that the development of professional skills in finance is a very important part of economic transformation in South Africa. He also believes that it will help improve the performance of the public sector. Terence served as the country's Auditor General for 7 years and has extensive experience in the world of auditing and accounting. He has vast experience in leadership, having held senior positions with a variety of companies. Dr. Nombembe is with me on the program, and a pleasure for us to catch up once again, Terence.
Thanks so much, Tim.
Much appreciated. Well, highly respected position with so much authority, position of Auditor General, untouchable, not to be interfered with. Did you ever feel that you had that much power when you were Auditor General?
Well, the power is defined in terms of the Constitution.
Yes.
And the choice we made was never to make that to cloud the way in which we needed to do the work. Because the way we needed to do the work was to focus primarily on the value that we could add and the consciousness and the education that we needed to provide for those that we had oversight over. So that's the way we approached the work.
And of course, I'm just thinking to myself, maybe power is not the right word to use, but rather to say you carried more serious responsibilities, because to go around the country, different levels of government, looking into the books of different departments, carries a lot of responsibility. You know, some you must declare a clean audits, and the others that you, qualified audits and so forth. Just tell me about the responsibilities that went with that kind of work and the pressures that you operated under.
It's a massive responsibility indeed, Tim, because that office has got the duty to audit all the accounts of government and make pronouncements on issues of financial statements, whether they are true and fair, and also on service delivery, whether the statements made about service delivery a true reflection of what had happened, and also on issues that relate to the compliance with laws and regulation. Over and above that, we needed to be technically proficient and competent in doing that work, which is the responsibility we had towards our own staff in terms of the training they go through, the qualifications and designations that they possess, and the manner in which they actually do their work. Over and above that, the question we kept asking ourselves as a leadership, how visible are we to those that we need to persuade in doing their work and responding to the messages that came out of our reports?
Well, I was about to say that, you know, you were operating in a very political environment anyway, and the pressures that go with it. And I've observed you over that period of time and have interviewed you. You always are cool on the surface, notwithstanding the pressures and the pronouncements that you make that may put some political principles in bad light, but you still, you know, were able to go out there, communicate, and do so in as calm a manner as possible. How do you do that?
Well, the approach we chose, Tim, was transparency and also sufficient consultation. At no stage did we ever make pronouncements without engaging with those affected departments and those affected entities. So the whole notion of speak with them before you speak about them was basically the philosophy that drove the way in which we operated.
Now, that work gave you insights into what South Africa needs. I did mention in the intro that development of skills in terms of accounting and so on is a very important thing for you. And in this current role as CEO of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, you are in a position to drive things there. What did you see as a gap in the public sector in terms of auditing and accounting?
You know, Tim, the biggest gap we saw and we always made pronouncement on was the coordination of the role of the leadership, the role of the teams within government that do their work, how they get to be supervised and led, as well as the resources that government needed in order to do a decent job on issues of service delivery first and foremost, and then accounting for that in terms of the finances that were needed for service delivery and complying with the rule of law. Every pronouncement that we made, even in today's audit office, is about the skills and the professionalism with which things are done in the public service. We need to professionalize the public service. That's the silver bullet response to the public service.
And from what you saw is that there's a lack of capacity in terms of those skills.
Lack of capacity, lack of sufficiency. You may have one or two people that have got what it takes. It does not help the entire civil service if the rest of the people do not have the ability to understand how they fit in the bigger picture. And that's why in the way in which the civil service is structured, it's so important that you have got people that are sufficiently trained, sufficiently professionalized, sufficiently serviced at a professional level in order to do a decent job.
Now, in terms of the private sector, now that you're with the Institute of Chartered Accountants, what do you find? And of course, in relation to economic transformation, what do you see now? I mean, the lack of those skills, or do we have sufficient, to use your word, sufficient skills in that regard?
The skills generally in South Africa is in short supply. And that's why, as professional bodies, SAICA included, the institute that I belong to, we have got to do a lot of work in developing those skills.
What is the ratio? Because actually I know that there's a racial bias here as well, right? That you have very few chartered accountants in relation to what the country needs, black chartered accountants, and in relation to white chartered accountants, the number is very, very small.
That's true, Tim, and we can't change that legacy ratio, because it will...
What is it, just for the record?
It will stay with us. I mean, overall, if you talk about chartered accountants, we've got about 40,000 CAs, countrywide and overseas. Of those, blacks constitute about, 9%, 10%? It's a small ratio.
Yeah.
And of those, women constitute an even a smaller ratio. That's why what's pleasing to us, I must say, which is why I want to go back to the point I made earlier, that we can't change the legacy ratios. If you look at the current ratios of how many students and children are now at school at first year level that are pursuing accountants as a career, we're happy to say that figure is now 60% are blacks and 50-50 when it comes to boys and girls, or males and females. Same ratio when it comes to the end of their qualification, basically the postgraduate degree. We're beginning now to touch 40%. So those are the promising ratios for us that says we have invested sufficiently in programs like Tutuka to be able to prove and demonstrate that no matter your background, if you're properly supported, properly guided, properly funded, you will make it in these professions. And it applies, by the way, to engineers, to doctors. That's why our future, when it comes to these issues, Tim, I just want to emphasize the point. We should not only focus on one profession. We should have a multi-dimensional approach to how we support these professions.
Do you think we treat it as a matter of urgency and that it's been given the appropriate focus? And even so, who should be playing the lead role here? Because when we talk change, most of the time we look to government to drive that. But the private sector itself does have a need for these skills. One would have thought that they would be at the forefront of making sure that more and more of the necessary skills for this modern economy are being developed.
The beauty with the private sector, which is why I would say they're more or less relaxed, is that the preference and the choice of these professionals tends to lean more towards the private sector. And that's why there is this artificial sense of comfort when it comes to the agents of these skills. And that's why it's important that government itself also needs to invest heavily in growing their own trees, so that people, when they finish, they choose to be part of those people that were part of their development from the early stages when they were more vulnerable. And I think it's important that that principle of government investing in these skills is very, 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 very important. Yeah.
But you know, you chose the path of accounting and rising to senior positions, and you did so on your own steam. If we can go back in time, what is it that attracted you to this field, and what kind of support did you get along the way for you to rise to the top, up to being the CEO of the Institute of Chartered Accountants itself?
Well, during our days, it was more of character and courage that drove us, because we could only have role models. And when it comes to support, we had to support ourselves through the courage that we had and the character that we had to display. Fortunately, we had role models like Prof. Ngutlu. We had role models like the people that basically qualified under Prof's Ngutlu's firm around Mthatha. So those are the people that we could basically relate to very, very closely. So we had no shortage of those role models. What remained was for us to say, what do we do about the inspiration that we see in front of us? Today's students are given more than just role models. They're given financial support, they're given mentorship support, they're given stipends, they're given everything to give them every chance to succeed, at least in the pilot that we run as Tutuka. And that's why it's important for that model to be extended to the rest of the professions. You asked the question, who should take the lead? I believe the professional bodies, like SAICA, the Engineering Council, etc., should take a lead in basically providing that skills supply for the rest of government and commerce and industry, by the way. Yeah.
I suggested that you've been in leadership positions, and they carry a lot of responsibility, some of the positions you've held. And as far as you're concerned, over the years interacting with other leaders and looking at yourself as Terence Nombembe, what you had to bring to the party, because, you know, the skills provide you with the competency, right? But the character that you spoke about is very, very key as well. You can be competent and, with respect, be an idiot at the same time. It's possible, isn't it?
That is true, Tim.
Yeah, you've seen a competent idiot?
It's true. It's true, actually.
So,
yeah.
Okay. Now,
that's why we speak about responsible leadership.
Sure.
At SAICA.
And for you, a leadership quality that stands out, so we can, you know, share it with the same people who want to follow in your footsteps. What are the qualities that you think help build the character you need to become a successful leader? I could learn from that too. Tell me.
It's not rocket science, Tim, to be honest. It's about basically knowing what to live for, what to live to accomplish. And to a large extent, as leaders, we ought to live not to be selfish. We ought to live in order to be selfless and be an inspiration to others and do things that liberate other people. Because remember, at a leadership level, you've already accomplished. The fact that you are in the top position or lead position in the institution or in society, you can't ask for more. Otherwise, you're basically depriving those that have not arrived the opportunity to get to where you are. And therefore, our role, once again, I want to refer back to responsible leadership, is to be identifying those things that deal with issues of what is it that unites South Africa? What is it that will build the skills for this country, which is something that we always refer to all the time. What is it that will build a service delivery for the public service? What is it that will build professionals that will be all-rounded and add value and create value for enterprises, whether public sector, whether private sector, whether civil society, small business, communities. That's the kind of leadership we need to display. So it's basically a long story to say, be selfless and not be selfish. And we need to see most of that in the public service as well.
Dr. Terence Nombembe, thank you very much for having been our guest. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Tim.
He's the CEO of the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants, paid us a visit, and of course we enjoyed talking to him as well as drawing lessons from him. Share with us your thoughts tonight with Tim Modise at gmail.com, and of course your comments On Twitter, @Tim Modise.
Yes, kulekile kwamakenzo.
Namas, balisa ngithi. Indodakazi yethu. Ine salon yayo. Lo muntu lo une LPA.
NBA.
LPA.
Opa, Mr. Program Director. Thina bakamkhize.
Would like to give
A final parting gift. Vela,
Dini. Ah, yazi ukuthi indodakazi yethu ubalisa ukhule yes man. Ukhule abukela iDisney Junior. Ukhule abukela umzansi wethu. Umzansi bioscope. Yini? Nisinika umdubulo.
siyabonga.
Le is for mahala.
Wakayibona into equality emahala. Ucela ngihambe. Mahala. Lokho postpone. Yeah.
Why settle for umdubulo when you can get quality entertainment? Keep it 99 with DSTV Access for only 99 Rand per month. DSTV Access, now ngayithola.
Passionate about helping young minds maximize their learning potential and experience, Young Einstein Soweto was founded 3 years ago to help learners from grade 2 to grade 12 in Soweto through their tutoring and winter programs. Managing partner Khadija Siko joins us on the show to tell us more about their tuition center and how it can assist your child through their educational journey. Khadija, pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Much appreciated that you could make time to be with us. Tell us about the Young Einsteins concept.
Okay, Young Einsteins was founded about 10 years ago by a man named Naeem Mohammed. I used to work at Young Einsteins Lenasia about 3 years ago in 2013. And then I did some freelance tutoring in 2014 and 15. And then this year, I opened Young Einsteins Soweto and started operating in March.
Now, what is the concept of Young Einsteins all about?
The concept of Young Einsteins is to assist learners maximize their learning potential by giving them extra assistance, extra classes.
And how do you do that?
What we do is that we have weekly sessions with learners in the different grades, and we help them with homework assistance, revision, and exam